Another guy that's getting super pumped up on fourth hour of InfoWars and all the podcasts now. Dyer, See Through It All's got some clips of Dyer, the ortho bro. The super masculine midget ortho bro. So masculine. Dyer, so masculine. And his buddy Andrew Wilson, who the masculine orthodox who can't open the pickle jar. Let's see some of these. So you watch the entire stream and miss this part. Oh, red pill saying him? Yeah.
A seed of Abraham that counts, right? Mm-hmm. Genetically. Jesus is the seed. Mm-hmm. That's Paul's argument in Galatians 3 and 4. And if that's true,
we're all Jews.
But spiritual Jews are Christians.
Spiritual Jews are Christians.
Hey, they get it. We're all Jews. So we're all just the real Jews. What, you don't want to be a real Jew? You're a Jew. Like the ortho bros will call me. We call him Rabbi Dyer because he thinks he's a spiritual Jew. And because he shills Rabbi Jesus and Yahweh and Jewish prophecies. I love how he always, how come like the top ortho bro is always admitting they're spiritual Jews and Jesus is a Jew? He's so much more honest than all of these LARPing E-Crusader Orthodox Christians, right? At least we'll give him that.
Says the seed. Mm-hmm. That's Paul's argument in Galatians 3 and 4. And if that's true,
we're all Jews.
But spiritual Jews are Christians.
Spiritual Jews are Christians. Spiritual Jews are Christians.
I was raised Baptist. So like I was raised thinking all that end times John Hagee stuff is what the Bible's talking about. And then I read Galatians 6. Paul says the church is...
They slurp that seed up. Yeah, that's pretty gross. Yeah, the seed is like actually Jesus is the sperm of David. The cosmic sperm bake, right? The Richard Carrier cosmic sperm bake that everybody seethes so much over.
The Israel God. Mm-hmm. Not the flesh and nature state of Israel. And then you read Galatians 3 and 4, and he says that the only way to be a son of Abraham is to be in Christ. That's the only seed.
Right.
There's no other seed. There's no being a seed of Abraham that counts, right? Genetically for salvation, right?
So all the Jews and Muslims, they're going to hell.
To be a seed, right? The promise, Paul's arguing in Galatians 3 and 4 that the promises to Abraham, because remember, Abraham's a Gentile. A lot of people forget that, right? He's the first of the Jews, but he's a Gentile convert, even in Judaism. And Paul's arguing that in Genesis 12, 15, 17, and 22, all those key chapters when God's interacting in this covenant relationship with Abraham, that the covenant has always been in Jesus Christ, even back then, because the seed that's promised in those chapters is Jesus. Jesus is the seed. That's Paul's argument in Galatians 3 and 4. And if that's true,
we're all Jews.
But spiritual Jews are Christians.
Yeah.
Dude, they're wannabe Jews. What's with all these wannabe Jews? How come all these wannabe Jewish Christians that worship a Jewish God and Messiah are always calling us Jews? That's the most mentally ill part about all of it.
Hey, I would ask you, God, what does God look like? I mean, Jesus.
Well, in the Orthodox Church, we think that he looks like Orthodox icons. Like we think he actually has like that look. And so pretty much across most Orthodox iconography, which is, what icons are, like the 2D images.
None of those are from the first few centuries. And there's no physical description or eyewitness of Jesus anywhere in the Bible.
Churches have. You see a pretty unanimous presentation of what Jesus looks like throughout Orthodox icons. So we think he looks like that. We think,
go bow down on your knees to your icons. Prostrate yourself to all these icons. To your Hebrew Jew. He's going to say he's a Hebrew, right? He's not going to go with he was white, he was Aryan Jesus, blonde hair, blue eye, Aryan Jesus. I know Dyer isn't going to say that. He's gonna say he's Jewish.
Our tradition has accurately captured his look,
right?
As a Hebrew dude.
Yeah, it's like that whole area of the world, like Jordan, Lebanon, Israel today. It's
exactly, yeah. So those are Orthodox icons. Are usually pretty synonymous with the way Jesus is presented, because we have pretty strict rules in the Orthodox Church about how you can do icons. You can't just like Roman Catholics are like, they'll do like Chinese Jesus, Black Jesus, right. We think that Jesus has to be presented as
Jewish,
Hebrew in terms of the lineage that he had. So he's not.
Dude, stop trying to run cover, Jay. You've said before it's Jewish. You don't call him Hebrew. Nobody called him Hebrews at that point. They were known as Jews. He's Judean. David is king of Judah, the Judeans. He's called a Judean. Just say Jewish. What is that, bad optics to say Jewish? You want to say Hebrew instead? Come on, we know your little tricks here.
White dude. He's not an Asian dude. He's not a black dude.
Not a white dude. Hear that, all you LARPing E-Crusaders? Your hero and guru, Jay Dyer, says he's not a white dude. He's Jewish.
dude. He's not an Asian dude. He's not a black dude. He's Hebrew dude.
He's definitely not a black dude. So he's like Arabic. Look.
He's Hebrew. Yeah. I mean, and you know, there's different types of skin colors of Hebrew, but for us, he has to be that to fulfill the prophecies of his lineage. So he's got to be a descendant of Adam and Abraham.
You know, you got your Chinese Jesus, your black Jesus, your white Jesus, your Jewish Jesus. How do you guys like your Jesus? He's a Jesus for everybody.
I like to picture Jesus in a tuxedo T-shirt because it says like, I want to be formal, but I'm here to party too. Because I like
descendant of David, right? So he can't be a black dude
or a white dude. Yeah, that's the best clip. How come nobody else clipped that up? The Hodge twins are like, so we're the real Jews? We're the spiritual Jews? We have the covenant?
First, and there's going to be, I've been hearing since the 90s, like they're going to sacrifice the heifers, and there's going to be, I'm not saying that there's not people that want.
They've had the plan since the 90s. Well, they've had the plan for, it's in the Talmud, right? So over 1,000 years, they've had the plan, 1,500 years. Have they had the cows? They haven't had a bunch of all red cows in Israel for 15 years.
And there's going to be, I'm not saying.
But I agree with his point. The Christians have been saying we're in the end times forever.
People that want to do it. I'm just saying I've been hearing it since I was a kid. Right. And I don't know how legit those articles were back then, but I mean, they want that. Yeah. Yeah. Like there's a sizable group that wants that. But to, you know, if you're a historic Christian, like there's no Zionism in the history of Christianity. Right. It's a modern atheist political movement. It has nothing really to do with
modern atheist political movement. Come on. The name Zion is because it's Zion in Jerusalem and rebuilding the temple and the ingathering of the exiles. Is he really doing the atheist washing? The atheist scapegoating? Is that really what I just heard?
There's nothing really to do with what's in the Bible, but to your point, modern atheist political movement.
Atheists. Are there atheists in Israel? Sure. Were some of the founders of Israel not observant Jews? Sure. Is he really just running cover for like the whole Torah conspiracy to return to the land and to have the temple and the Messiah rule from Israel? He's going to say it's an atheist thing? Doesn't he? So he's blaming atheist, and See Through It All says Jay is running cover for the Torah conspiracy. Yes. Scapegoating atheism for Zionism, for Torahism, for Judaism.
There's nothing really to do with what's in the Bible, but to your point,
they just went back there because the Bible, and they're just trying to fulfill the Bible, but it's not the same as the Bible one. They're just going to run cover for it until they fulfill everything and take over the world.
Use the terms of the Bible to kind of make it seem like to dupe people, to dupe American evangelicals, and that's John Hagee's job, is to get people on board with it. I've been hearing since the 90s, like they're going to suck.
I guess you can't expose the Torah Judaism conspiracy when you're one of the biggest advocates for messianic apocalyptic Judaism in the form of Christianity. Here's a mix. See Through It All did. Christianity emerges from Hebrew, so spiritual Jews are Christians.
Dupe everybody and subvert their culture. Jesus is the seed. That's Paul's argument. Because Christianity emerges from the Old Testament Hebrew religion, the assumption is that it is then a plot to dupe everybody and subvert in Galatians 3 and 4. And if that's true,
we're all Jews.
Spiritual Jews are Christians.
Spiritual Jews are Christians.
What does God look like? I mean, Jesus.
We think that Jesus has to be and all the nations is partially a proof of all of those prophetic texts that the religion of Israel would spread to the Gentiles. So the fulfillment of all the nations being blessed in Abraham is by all the nations being included in the Abrahamic covenant via the person of Christ, who fulfills all the promises to the Abrahamic covenant.
So the Jews had a plan that the Goyim would believe in the Messiah and the Jewish God, and now Christians like him promote the Jewish God and the Jewish Messiah, so prophecy is fulfilled. Because you guys were duped into believing in their covenant, their prophecy is fulfilled. By your belief, you're fulfilling, by you being duped with their lies that they were ever chosen, you're fulfilling their prophecies. That's what Christians do for them. That's how Christians enable them. Through their belief.
You've got, Jeremiah, you guys.
Here's another one. Apostate prophet converted to Orthodox Christianity too. Candace Owens Catholicism.
You've got Hosea, you've got dozens and dozens and dozens of predictions. I could list Psalm 2, Psalm 8, Psalm 16, Psalm 18, Jeremiah 25, Jeremiah 3, Hosea 1, Habakkuk 2, 14, 15. I mean, I got a whole, you could go through many, many more. Isaiah 25, Isaiah 24, 42, Amos 9, 11, 12.
Amos 9, 11 to 12. I tweeted about this. How do I find that? Hold on. I tweeted about this yesterday. Let me find it real quick. Oh, you're citing a bunch of scriptures there. Let's go read one of them. Amos 9, 11 to 12. Let's go see what prophecy is fulfilled here real quick.
Isaiah 25, Isaiah 24, 42, Amos 9, 11, 12.
Amos 9, 11 to 12. Let's go check that one out. In that day, I will restore David's fallen shelter. I will repair its broken walls and restore its ruins. David's fallen shelter is the temple. I will rebuild it as it used to be, so that they may possess the remnant of. He quotes Psalm 2. Yeah, all the verses that I quote to show how the messianic plan was to conquer the nations, and then he helps the nations believe in the Jewish plan, and then says prophecy is fulfilled, and then gets boosted by all these big shows and not censored ever. And he's just one of tens of thousands. So that they may possess the remnant of Edom and all the nations that bear my name. So a verse about the Messiah of David possessing the remnant of Edom, who they interpreted to be Rome. Just like in Numbers 24:17, another messianic verse about the star. So the star of Jacob, the scepter of Israel, the Davidic Messiah, Edom will be conquered. Seir, that's the mountain where Edom is. His enemy will be conquered. They were interpreting that to be about Rome. Acts 15:17 actually quotes Amos 9, 11 to 12. The rest of mankind may seek the Lord. Even all the Gentiles will seek the Jewish God. And it's about conquering Edom in Rome, how it would have been interpreted back then. What does Ramban say about the Numbers 24:7? Edom will be a possession. The fall of Edom will be through the hands of the Moshiach. I don't know, like Jesus led in Christianity had something to do with the fall of Rome and conquering the pagan gods of Rome. And Christianity ultimately is helping to destroy the modern day Rome, which they say is Christianity and America and the West. Acts 15 cites Amos 9:11 about possessing Rome. And that's the same verse where it talks about like the Noahide laws, where the Jerusalem church, Jewish James the Just, and Cephas, Peter, the supposed ruling that Saul the Pharisee, Paul, could go and teach a form of the Noahide laws to the Gentiles. All of that tying together. This is the type of prophecies J. Dyer cites to prove Jesus is real, that he promotes is real. And it is the outline for the plan, for the plot of conquering the Gentiles, so that the Gentiles turn to the God of the Jews, which he'll even tell you it's the Jewish God.
And Isaiah 49, what they're predicting it.
Isaiah 49. Is that the one where it says they'll lick the dust of the feet and the kings and queens will bow? Pretty sure that's the one. Let me pull it up real quick. I love how he cites these all off like he's so intellectual and smart and it's so cool. So much prophecy fulfilled, those magical Jews and their magical prophecies. It's like totally awesome, man. Where is it? Oh, that's not it. It's this one. Dude, where is it? Daniel, Zechariah, Wisdom of Solomon. Is it this one? Daniel, Isaiah, Branch, Midrash. This is the one. Here it is. Isaiah 49. Okay. You distant nations and the servant that's concealed in his quiver. I will make you a light for the Gentiles. My salvation may reach the ends of the earth. It's about conquering the kings of the Goyim. Kings will see you and stand up. Princes will see you and bow down, because the Lord who is faithful, the Holy One of Israel, who has chosen you. And the servant is also discussed in Isaiah 49 and Isaiah 42. They shall bow down before thee with their faces to the ground and lick the dust and know that I am Hashem. That's Isaiah 49. That's what he's citing as good and true. Where is my Isaiah 42? The servant will bring justice to the nations. The islands will put their hope. Quoted by Paul. And I think Mark. In the Messiah, the Gentiles will put their hope. Well, how come these atheist mythicists act like all these verses don't exist? All the verses, the Enochs of the Son of Man having dominion over the nations. The Messiah in Judaism is about conquering the world, and these mythicists have to beat around the bush to say it and want to smear people and slander people that do say it and state the obvious. Isaiah 45 is every knee will bow. Romans, so Paul cites Romans. He says, Isaiah said, the root of Jesse will spring up, the one who will arise to rule over the nations. The root of Jesse is Isaiah 11. In him the Gentiles will hope. They'll put their false hope into their false Messiah and be led to their destruction. Isaiah 11. Oh, I said Isaiah 9. There shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, a branch. So Jesus is the branch too. The earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the water covers the sea. Thanks to Abrahamic agent, Judeo-prophecy shills like all the Christians online.
Is when a messianic figure comes, when the Messiah comes, one of the key signs they say will be that many of the Gentile nations will convert to worship the God of Israel. Now, if you think about it in the context of like people in Isaiah's day, you know, if you were a Jew at that time, you would have thought that's crazy, right? What? How would vast numbers of Gentiles come to worship our Hebrew God? That seems...
Yeah, Lamar, why are you coping? Martin Luther says it's a counter to all these theories that Christianity is Jew worship. Christianity is Jew worship, and there's no way of getting around it. It says salvation is of the Jews in your book. Are you a Christian, Lamar? I've never even seen you here, Lamar. You already came in and misrepresented some shit.
Crazy.
You're annoying me.
And yet when Christ comes, the first thing that happens is that the church expands into the Roman Empire and begins.
Lamar.
The church itself is a prophetic proof.
Yeah, you're a Christian, Lamar?
Of the fact that the Gentile nations have been brought into this prediction from centuries and centuries and millennia ago.
They've been brought in because the Jews created a religion and sold it to the Gentiles, Jay. Do you not get that? They had a prophecy. They made up a story, fake fulfilling the prophecy, and the gullible goyim fell for it. And you're selling this as some miraculous thing.
That the Gentiles would come to worship the God of Israel. I mean, you can go all the way back to Abraham, Genesis 12, 15, 17, 22. The promise to Abraham was that one of his descendants would be the person that would bring Gentile nations into covenant with the God of Israel.
Why am I talking about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Why are the scriptures of Israel so central to the way I think about the world?
Exactly.
I mean, what does this have to do with even traditional Jews have to find some way to explain the existence of Christianity, which is why you even get very anti-Christian Jews saying that in some strange way it's an aspect of the providence of God. But yeah, I think it's just much simpler to speak about Jesus as he's the one who does what was always promised concerning the Messiah.
What happened when Jesus came and then Gentile nations started converting? What's been happening for 2,000 years? Kings and nations, princes have worshipped the Holy One of Israel. Again, one of the great key indicators that we've covered many times all throughout the Old Testament is that when the Messiah comes, the Gentiles will repent and turn to the God of Israel. How could somebody who's a seed of Abraham bless all the nations? And
why is he so impressed by this? Why can't he admit that it's way more likely that they read their prophecies and they tried to fulfill them, and that's what Christianity is? Them following the plan as they understood it in their scriptures. That's like saying, that's the same exact argument as the Jews working to return to the land of Israel and then saying prophecy was fulfilled because they returned to the land. So the Jews had a prophecy that all the Goyim would worship their God, and then they did it, and now you're saying they accomplished it, they achieved their goal, and you're saying it's because they're magic? And you think this is not completely Shabbos Goy Noahide behavior? We got a clip of Jay even saying that Christians are basically Noahides.
Turn these nations to the true God. That's crazy. That's never going to happen. These people, they worship, demons and sticks and rocks. And
There's a growing trend via the internet and YouTube of neo-paganism. So a lot of people are adopting the default perspective of, let's just return to some form of paganism. And one reason they do this is that they believe that Christianity is just a version of desert God. We need a God that's applicable.
They believe it's just a version of desert God? It is the Jewish God, Jay. Putting it in quotes and making it seem silly like desert God. It is a desert God. It's not the European God. It was the Jewish God. Yeah, worship sticks and rocks. Retarded. Okay, straw man any harder?
To the Viking, barbarian, Caucasian peoples.
I mean, either it's about ultimately what's true and what's false, and your heritage is second to that, or you want to be a pagan. So all the dumb pagans, salvation is of the Jews. Salvation is of the Jews. It's not of the
You really got us there, buddy.
Only Orthodox Church of the Old Testament is the Jews. All of the early church are Pharisees and Jews and teachers of the law. The book of Acts is thousands of Jews converting for the first 10 chapters. Key proof of Christianity, and not just generic Christianity, Orthodox Christianity, is the fulfillment of the nations.
I don't even think he believes any of this. I really don't. I think it's a grift. I think he's just a shill for Jesus, and I don't think he really believes these prophecies are real. Anybody else get that vibe? This is just a grift?
Converting to worship the Messiah and the God of Israel. What? Yes, when we see that, that's a key sign that the Messiah has come. And that's been happening for the last 2,000 years. And that kingdom is the Orthodox Church, worshiping together with the Hebrews. Key fulfillment of the Messianic age.
Worship the God of the Hebrews, Goy. Rabbi Dyer really pushing the Yahweh worship. Good mix there. How much more do we have? All right, I've had enough of Dyer. Although there's another good mix here where he's basically blaming the Atlanticist power block, which is just Western civilization. He says it's that Israel is a geostrategic location to be in the middle. So he's doing the literal controlled op talking point that Israel's our base in the Middle East. They're our aircraft carrier in the Middle East. He blames atheists for Israel. He blames the West for Israel. These are all like the top controlled op talking points that run cover for the Judaism agenda. The wise have always known. Here's Frederick the Great. Here's a quote from Volkish Spirit. Christianity is an old metaphysical fiction stuffed with fables, contradictions, and absurdities. It was spawned in the fevered imagination of the Orientals. I guess Orientals means Jews. And spread to our Europe, where some fanatics espoused it, where some intriguers pretended to be convinced by it, and where some... That's Dyer. In the intriguers that pretended to be convinced. And Jordan Peterson. I seen the documentary on Dyer. He is a grifter. He doesn't believe it. I don't think he does. And intriguers pretended to be convinced by it, and where some imbeciles actually believed it. Well put. See, the wise among us have always known Christianity for what it is. And that's the next segment that we're going to here. Another one from Volkish Spirit. German poet Friedrich Hebel. Kind of looks like me. My hairline's better, but it kind of looks like me. Same blood. He was German. German poet. Yep. The Christians at the time will be like, that guy's a Jew. Look at that Jew right there. That blonde hair. That blonde hair Jew. Christianity is the leaf poison of humanity. Up to now, Christianity has been quite harmless to the people because it was crude paganism. I disagree with that it's been harmless up until now. The further true Christian education spreads downwards, the worse will be its impact. The noblest people agree that Christianity has brought little blessing and much harm to the world, but they usually look for the reason in the Christian church. I find it in the Christian religion itself. The end is the best part there. It's not this sect or that sect or Christian Zionism or Schofield Bible. It's the religion itself. It's the New Testament itself. It's the Old Testament itself. That is the problem. And all these people that say not real Christians, not real Jews, they're all running cover for that. Oh, it's the Khazarians, not the Jews. It's the synagogue of Satan. They don't worship Yahweh. It's only the Christian Zionists. These are the copes, and this addresses that cope. It's the religion itself. It's the scriptures themselves. Another one, German philosopher Eugene Karl Dühring on the paradox of Christian anti-Semitism. This one's from Forbidden One, who is back. The Return of Forbidden One. But our people have always known. They've always seen this. The Nietzsche quotes are amazing too. And we got more quotes here in a second. But like, the dumbed down masses, the illiterate, the gullible, the superstitious, they all fell for it. They fell in the trap. But like I said, the wise have always known. It's pretty obvious. If you have, like I say, if you have discernment and you're informed on what it is, you see it for what it is. Jewish myths and about ruling the world. Jewish myths about ruling the world. That's what Abrahamism basically sums up in a nutshell. Prophecies about the Jewish God ruling the world. But I must point out one more step. Those who wish to cling to Christian tradition are not in a position to turn emphatically against Judaism. So they were already recognizing the hypocrisy and the contradictions and the controlled opposition aspect of Christianity to Judaism. Christian tradition, those who wish to cling to, so Christians are not in a position to turn emphatically against Judaism because you are Judaism. If you say you're the true Judaism, you're not opposed to Judaism. Nobody talks about the miracle of a perfect hairline. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. It's gone back a little bit, but I think I'm going to hold on. Christianity is the greatest grift ever. Usually preying on vulnerable, broken, susceptible, uneducated, indoctrinating people when they're young. Historical Christianity, considered in its true spirit, was indeed a reaction within Judaism against Judaism itself, controlled opposition. If they knew the term controlled opposition, he's basically describing it right now. Christianity is Judaism against itself. It's another sect of Judaism. But it nevertheless arose from it. Hebrew prophets who thundered against their people nevertheless remain Hebrews. Just as the first Christians, which was a Jewish messianic movement, they railed against the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the Jewish establishment and the competing sects in Judaism, but they nevertheless remain Jews. And even if the one considered Jesus may have been partly of a different nationality, which he wasn't, he certainly breathed the same spiritual air, Jewish air. I mean, teaching, reading the Torah in the synagogues and impressing the rabbis in the temple. You don't get more Jewish than that. Sorry. How many people, we'll finish this. And despite all partial rebellion, Christianity is only partial rebellion. I like that term. It's only partial opposition. It's limited opposition. If you can't condemn the Torah and you worship the God and believe the prophecies, you're a limited form of opposition. Despite all partial rebellion, felt himself on the whole at one with the tradition of the Jewish people. Okay, so German philosophers, probably in the 1800s, they knew. They saw Christianity was controlled opposition back then. This is not my idea. This is not my theory. I don't have theories. I've got facts. I've got the facts and the receipts, not theories. It's not a theory that Christianity was started by Jews. It's not a theory that Jesus was Jewish. It's not a theory that these prophecies are about the chosen people ruling the world with their Messiah and God. It's the facts.